Hello, hello, welcome everybody. Good to see you. I see some familiar faces here. Dorothea, Mike, Patrick, Jason, Pilar, John, Albert, Ezio, Voila, Justin, fantastic. Good to see you all. Let me help everybody here. Fantastic. We're all joining again in big numbers. Good to see. If you are here for the first time, welcome as well. Great we have you on board. Really looking forward here to providing you value. And today, obviously, having access to the godfather of influence himself, Dr. Cialdini. I see still a lot of people coming in, so let's give them some time. I see Dr. Cialdini. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. We have still people coming in, but as it is the top of the hour, I also like to kick off. So, welcome everybody. Fantastic you're here, and it's a pleasure always to have these special calls with the one and only godfather of influence, Dr. Robert Cialdini. Welcome, Dr. Cialdini. Fantastic you could join us here today.
Well, thank you, boss. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy these opportunities to interact with people who are intimately connected to the influence process.
Fantastic. Great. So, like last time, what we said, you get the opportunity today to ask your question to Dr. Cialdini. But we thought it's also nice to get to know Dr. Cialdini on another level. You all know, you read his books, you studied our program. So there are so many interesting stories. So, Dr. Cialdini, can I ask one of those interesting stories? Can you share with us the story? How did you fall in love with behavioral science?
In those days, we called it social psychology, at least in the academic world where I was a student as an undergraduate. I had never taken a class in behavioral science or social psychology. I was scheduled to go on to graduate school in animal behavior. I loved the researching the role of various kinds of influences on animal behavior in its as it occurred in its natural environment. And but I had a girlfriend who was taking a social psychology class. And we were at a stage in our relationship, we wanted to be together all the time. So we would go from having lunch and I would accompany her to her social psychology class. And it turned out there was an empty desk next to her and I filled it. And that was my entree to academic social psychology. And I'll tell you, by the end of that term, I was so excited about behavioral science in the category of social psychology that I shifted my major or my intention to go to graduate school in animal behavior to the study of social behavior among human beings, and never regretted that decision for a minute. In fact, I have to say that by the end of the semester, I was more enamored of social psychology than of my girlfriend, who had wandered off to other things. She was not as interested in keeping our relationship. So I was dedicated to being in social psychology as my new love.
Fantastic. So in the end, you switched one love to a new love, but the new love stayed forever.
In college, these things come and go. The personal relationships, they fade sometimes, and that was the case with Marilyn, but not with social psychology or behavioral science. That's been a lifelong love of mine.
Fantastic. I always love this story, and obviously a lot of people don't know this. And there's another great story. At one moment, there was a football game going on, and you were working in the basement at the Ohio State University. And then something happened at that moment, Dr. Cialdini. Can you share with us what What happened?
Yeah, it was an important moment in my professional career in terms of how to structure what I wanted to study within behavioral science. I was a visiting professor at Ohio State University, and in those days, the social psychology program was located beneath the stadium, the seats of the stadium. It was a big circular thing with walls all around, and beneath it were academic units, and one of them was the social psychology program. I was a visiting professor there, but it's a big football school, and I bought tickets to the games. And one Saturday, I had come in early to puzzle over a data set that I had gotten from a laboratory study of persuasion, where if we made a request this way, we got certain number of people to say yes, to move in that direction, versus if we said made the same request slightly differently, we got slightly more people to move in that direction. But it wasn't enough to be statistically significant, to build an article, to write an article or publish anything. So I was puzzling over this small effect, and then I noticed it was time for the game to start. So I went out of my office through some corridors and out into the bowl of the stadium, where there were something like 80,000 people already there, ready to cheer on their home team. And as I was moving to my seat, the Ohio State football team ran onto the field. They just ran onto the field, and the place went berserk. People were up in their seats. They were cheering. They were shouting. They were singing the university fight song. They were spilling beer on one another. They were chanting, and just because the team had run on the field, you have to understand, there was no point scored. There was no touchdown. There was no tackle. There was nothing. The team had just run onto the field. And I recognized the power of fandom, fanship, the tendency to be affiliated with a particular organization to identify as, in this case, a fan of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Later, that turned into the principle of unity. When I think about it, when people have strong sports affiliations, they feel a sense of commonality and partnership and unity with their fellow fans. Anyway, I remember going to my seat and stopping to see this tumult around me and thinking about that little effect that I had gotten, that I was puzzling over in my office a few minutes before. And I remember saying to myself, Cialdini, I think you're studying the wrong thing. Here's where there's power. Go to where there's power. Go to the most primal, most powerful, forceful effects in human behavior. Those are the things that you should be studying, not these small little effects that you can get in a laboratory by manipulating certain variables and keeping everything else exactly constant, which never occurs in the real world. We never have a situation where we are able to control every situation. Go to those real life field situations to understand what are the big effects that are driving human behavior and study them. So that was a really important turning point in my professional career. Yeah.
I love this story, and what an impact that insight had, because that was the starting point also on how you do research. And actually, you are well known. No, let me rephrase, highly regarded, because your skill of observation and doing research in a certain manner, and that also involves all kinds of observation. Even your brother, there's an interesting one. He was selling used cars to make his way to school. And that had also something to do with a principal, right? Can you share something about that story, Bob?
Yeah, my brother Richard worked his way through college by selling used cars, but not from a lot, not from a dealership. He would, in those days, there were the newspapers where you would read about cars that were for sale. He would buy a car, and he was a good enough judge of quality. He knew the right price for a car. He would buy a car at a low price 1 week, add nothing but soap and water, and sell it at a much higher price the following weekend by putting an ad in the newspaper and getting people to come to look at the car. Now, how did he do it? It was the same car, right? How did he do it? Well, he knew, first of all, how to buy a car at a low price that he could legitimately raise the price significantly and still get people interested in it, because he would write a very persuasive ad for it. But once they got to look at the car, this is where the principle of social influence came in. Let's say 3 people called him on a Saturday or a Sunday, usually it was a Sunday, to come and look at the car. What I would have done would have scheduled them an hour apart. The first person I would have scheduled for 1 o'clock, the next person for 2 o'clock, the third person for 3 o'clock. Richard scheduled them all for 1 o'clock. And I would watch what happened. The first person would usually get there a little early, 5 minutes or so, and start doing normal car buying negotiation behavior, you know, looking for rust spots, kicking the tires, maybe asking for a reduction in price. When the second person arrived and everything changed, suddenly this car was not just a piece of metal to negotiate on. It was a prize to be that they were in competition with one another for. Right? And my brother would say to the second person, "Excuse me, sir, this gentleman was here before you. Would you mind standing over there on the edge of the driveway out of the scene until he makes his mind up whether to buy the car at my price?" And this would cause both parties to be kind of nervous, waiting for this decision, when the third person would pull up. And everything then was the first person would immediately make a decision, either to buy the car at my brother, but he wouldn't dream of negotiating with 2 competitive rivals waiting for him over there, right, on the peripheries. Or he just couldn't take this stacked up competition and he would just leave quickly. No, I'm not going to. At which time the second buyer would pounce, because there was a lurking newcomer waiting for him to decide, right? And my brother would always sell that car. He worked his way through school, and it's the principle of social proof, right? Not only the principle of social, you had 3 people interested in that car at that price, right? There, he used the scarcity principle. There was only 1 car available. It was available. There was competition for this scarce resource, and in combination, those 2 principles always got him the money he needed to continue his studies. You know.
Fantastic. That's also a great example from how Dr. Cialdini observed situations, and also how these principles are amplifying each other. It was social proof and scarcity that work together here.
Yeah, and then there was another factor that we talk about in our materials. Scarcity becomes supersized as an influence on behavior when competition is involved. It amps up the motivation to have something that's rare or unique or scarce, dwindling in availability, if there is competition for that object or item.
Yeah, fantastic. Very interesting. I love these stories. I could listen to them all day long. I imagine you as well. Only you also like to ask a question to Dr. Cialdini. Before we do this, you have the opportunity here to represent one of the best brands in the world, Dr. Cialdini's brand. It's high credibility, high quality. That's what the Cialdini brand and name stands for. And to do this, we built the Cialdini Institute, and we have 3 core values deep in our system in everything we do. And that's science, application, and ethics. And I love to repeat those values because we will represent this brand, and it has to stay consistent and always be that quality, credibility in those 3 core values. So can you explain to all our certified professionals here, Dr. Cialdini, why those 3 values?
Yeah, we've considered those the pillars of our organization. First, everything we teach has to be research-based. It has to be grounded in high quality, controlled research that was done in a scientific way, so that we can be confident about the evidence that comes out at the end of those investigations. There's a lot of ways that we can know. We can know things that don't involve scientific investigation to find the answer by observing things, by having speculations about them, or having experiences with something or another. But for my money, the one that I'm most confident in, the one that I can feel proudest about, or most willing to base my reputation on, are those that have stood the test of science, properly conducted, controlled research. If that's the case, then I am happy drawing conclusions based on those kinds of findings. So we make a commitment that we will draw no conclusions for anyone who looks to get information from us. We will draw no conclusions that are not based on scientific research. The second is, of course, ethics. Just because we can move people in a particular direction doesn't mean we always should. It doesn't mean that we're allowed to do so deceptively or in some form of approach that is less than ethical. Because, first of all, there's a moral reason for that. We want to think of ourselves as ethical people. I can't tell you how many times when I've spoken at conferences or conventions, and I talk about the ethics of performing the influence process in a way that is ethically acceptable and even commendable. How many times people come up to me afterwards and thank me for that component of the message. They say, I want to be successful, but I don't want to have to think of myself as a worm in order to be successful. I want to think of myself as someone who can be successful honestly, not by cheating. So this is one of the things that we emphasize. For that reason, you want to feel good about it. The second reason is the long-term prospects for someone who is an unethical communicator are dire. If you trick somebody, if you fool somebody into change in your direction, and they recognize that they've been fooled, they don't want to come back to deal with you again. Who would want to do business again with someone who has been unethical in their dealings? So for the long term, that's another reason that we emphasize the importance of ethical influence. And then the third is application. I used to teach courses on social influence and persuasion at the university level. And I would talk a lot about theories and conceptualizations and formulations that helped us understand why human behavior works the way it does in these dimensions, along these dimensions. And that was fine. But this isn't that. This is not just why a principle works the way it does theoretically, but how it could be employed ethically to bring about positive outcomes for all concerned, right? This is about implication, application, execution of these principles in ways that arrange for people to be honestly informed about the right direction for them to take in an influence situation. So that application is really crucial. And actually there's a fourth now that I want to consider as another pillar for what we're doing, especially within the Cialdini Institute now. And that is the efficiency of the influence process. How do we arrange for communicators to move people in a positive direction in a way that is the most efficient, that is the least costly, that takes the least time or energy or effort to get people to move in your direction? Efficiencies are crucial to modern business because the life is so information overloaded and complex that people are looking for efficiencies that can move them toward their goals. And so with the concept of the small big, the smallest thing you can do to change your influence approach that will produce the biggest impact on your persuasive success, that's something that we're focusing on a lot now, these small bigs. Let me give you one example so it's not just abstract. I saw an article a while ago of 6,700 online commercial sites where they were testing A/B tests of features they could include in the site versus not, and see what effect that had on conversions. And one of them was a technique that uses the liking principle, and it's the smallest thing you can do to do so. It simply found that if a website includes a welcoming statement at the beginning of the site, at the landing page of the site, you get significantly more conversions on that site. Just to say, welcome, we're so glad that you're with us, we look forward to helping you. Right? It produces human touch, a contact that everybody's looking for, because modern technology has taken away human contact from us. We work separately, we shop separately, we entertain ourselves separately from other people very often. So people are looking for that contact. And if we can fill it, if we can provide it in as small a way as simply welcoming people to the interaction that we have with them. So for example, I've seen a study that shows that simply shaking hands at the start of a negotiation significantly increases the mutual outcomes of the two negotiators. Right? Something as simple as that brings back the idea of human connection in touch is enough. So that's the other one that I am thinking ought to be yet a fourth pillar of what we provide, not just research-based, not just ethically focused, not just application-bound, but also efficiencies forward.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cialdini, for adding the fourth pillar, explaining that, and also highlighting and explaining our three core values of science, application, and ethics. So it's time for another great part of today's session, and that's the Q&A session. And I saw a Q when I spotlighted Dr. Cialdini in a different order than I see it now. So I thought that Ezio was the first, but now I see Patrick is the first. I don't know how the Q. Patrick, you saw yourself first at the beginning? Ezio, you were. Okay, I see now. I should see this Q, and we will run through it. That will work out. Patrick, we have 35 minutes left. So, yeah. Patrick, I see you now first in the queue.
Okay, you want me first?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I offend somebody here, but that's how the queue is now. So, yeah, please go, Patrick.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Dr. Cialdini. It's wonderful to finally connect with you. I thought about what to ask you, and I'm going to waste my question on a thank you. 23 years ago or so, I bumped into you on a cassette tape of you did some speech on mind capture, I think it was, and it fascinated me, the business I was in. It turned the business right around, and I emailed you. I found your email at Arizona State, emailed you, and say, I'm so fascinated about this, I'd love to teach this to other people. And I thought you'd never react. And within a day, there was a reply back, and you said, Patrick, you're happy to pass on my work, provided credit is given where it came from. Good luck with your endeavors. And I thought it was absolutely awesome. And so I've been singing your praises ever since, and I dare say I've lived my life sort of, along the principles. So you're awesome. I'm so glad to be on board.
Thank you, Patrick. That's so gratifying for me to hear. Because I'm a teacher. That's what I've always been, and the idea of being able to inform individuals about things that will help them enhance their outcomes in life, and in your case, your business, that just warms my heart, I have to say. So I appreciate your kind words.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hope to see you Sunday.
Thanks, Patrick, for sharing that kind compliment. So next in queue, I see Pilar. Lovely seeing you again.
Well, I don't know why I was silent. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm the fifth pillar of the Institute, by the way. So very glad to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Cialdini. I would just go to the point. I'm speaking from Spain. I am also a teacher in the university, and I work with the small companies, small, medium, but I'd rather say small companies. And now I'm planning to develop with them this influence, they tackle their influences challenges. So which would you take be on where would you start with? I mean, which of the principles do you think is the most relevant for a small company that really wants to make a difference, or that really wants to impact in the world, and they don't have neither the funds and the let's say the money that the biggest corporations they have? So yeah. What would you be your recommendation on this? Thank you, Matt, very much in advance.
It's a new version of social proof that we call future proof. That is, a small company may not have a lot of sales, may not have a large market share that they can point to compared to their larger competitors. But if they have a good product from their inception, even as a small company, they can show a trend in the direction of their support and favorability. And the research shows, even if you don't have the majority of people who are moving in your direction or purchasing your product or buying your service, if you can show them a trend in that direction, they project the trend into the future. This is what we do psychologically. If we have at least 3 data points, that is, if we can say 2 years ago, we were at this level, last year we're at this level, but now we're at this level, right? They project that will continue to go on, and you get as much compliance as you do if you show them that the majority of people are already doing it. They're projecting that the majority will because of that trend. The key is to have 3 data points. If let's say that you're even inside an organization, this can apply to organizations that are not small. Let's say you've got a new product and you think it's terrific, a new model. It's got some features that cost a little more but are well worth it. And let's say that 30% of your customer base has purchased it. If you say 30% of our customer base has purchased it, that's a mistake. It means 70% have not. You're sending them the wrong message. You're saying that most people don't think this is worth it. But if you use 2 data points and say, last year it was 20%, now it's 30%, right? That's a change. But changes go up and down. So they can go flat. That might mean that next year it's going to be 30% again, or might even be down, right, from that. But 3 data points, that's a trend. And people are persuaded that it will continue in that direction. So always have 3 data points if they are truly exist within your company. And for small companies, I'm sure that since they started, they can point to those advances, to those greater. So that I would suggest focusing on trends wherever they can be found within the data sets that you have available.
Fantastic advice. Thank you. Great question, Pilla. So next, Karthik. Lovely to see you here.
Hello, thanks, Bas. Thank you so much for calling me. And Dr. Cialdini, I would consider this moment to be, one of my life's golden moments in my, learning journey. It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you so much, first of all. So I'm from Bangalore, India, and my kind of an influence challenge that I'm having is, first of all, I help working husbands become productive, improve their high performance habits, and become more influential and role models for their family and teams. So that's what I work on. Having said that, when I conduct my webinars and all that, I do get a lot of engagement there. But when it comes to the point of sale, when people are willing to buy and move forward, what I showcase is the social proof of people who have already got into my coaching system. But I'm just trying to understand what else is more meaningful at that juncture, so that I can move them in the direction so that it can create positive influence in their lives. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I think what would be this, I'll ask you, how much time do you have? Because one thing you can say is that there are only so many slots I have for coaching. There are only so many available. And the same may apply to additional courses that you could teach, for those who've already been in it. Are there certain things that, because you're a single person firm, there are only so many slots, and then tell them honestly what those are. And now the scarcity principle works powerfully in your behalf there, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, take
thank
something
you. Thank
that's
you.
honest. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's kind of a group coaching that I'm doing, and they know that it's not like one-on-one, where that the real scarcity of my time is there. So in that sense, what would be a approach, Doctor?
Then I think I would go with commitment and consistency. Ask them and remind them of why they have joined. What are the values that they hold, that they want to achieve, and then show them how the outcomes of your coaching experience will allow them to achieve those goals and to register and those values that they said they started with, that they really have. And that requires, I think, a survey at the beginning to make sure that you've identified those things that people really want, so you can hone in on them, first of all, during your coaching, and then say, look at what is available in this program to allow you to achieve those existing commitments and values and goals that you told me from the outset. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Is it okay if I ask just one more question?
No, please. We have a lot of lines, so being in respect for
sure.
everybody, Katrick. I hope this answer was valuable. I definitely think so. And I go to Jason. Great questions, Katrick. Thank you for being here. Jason.
Oh, hello. I think Enzio still needs a turn.
Yeah, I think the cue got mixed up with the spotlighting or something. So sorry again if I offend everybody or somebody raised their hand first.
So my question is actually
my screen. So I'm very sorry if things are
that's okay. That's okay. I'll be super quick here. Dr. Cialdini, I'd like to ask your opinion on the importance of the role of cognitive biases and nudges. So they kind of lumped in as part of the behavioral science community, but I'm just curious because there's 180 different cognitive biases, and then there's all these types of things about nudges. And I do think that sometimes the idea of nudging is some of the prompts that we use with the 7 principles, but I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on the application and broadening the scope of knowledge to understand those biases and how important it is in the application of these principles.
It is very important. They determine very often how we behave in a given situation, the biases we bring inside that situation. But we can be overwhelmed, exactly as you said, Jason. Somebody recently counted 130 different biases. How can we be aware of all of them at the same time and able to counter them? I think that's beyond what we can expect the average human being to do in any given situation. So that's where these 7 principles, I think, came in when I began studying them. They're just these 7 that in my research, all the practitioners, all of the professions that focused on the influence process used just these 7. So there are other biases besides, trusting authorities and following social proof and so on, right? There are others besides these 7. But if I were to choose, it would be, and I'm interested in the influence process, I would home in on these 7 because they're the ones that my initial research showed all influence professionals use, not professionals, professions use to get others to move in their direction. They're the ones that they have identified as the most powerful. Let's truncate that list of 130 down to the 7 that are manageable to understand and then employ in honest ways.
Thanks for this great answer, Dr. Cialdini.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Ezio, sorry, I thought first you were first in my queue, but here you are. By the way, I'm looking forward to our conversation tomorrow about your opportunities with the marketing agencies. Now it's your time to ask Dr. Cialdini a question. Great. Please unmute.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, boss. I look forward to it as well. Dr. Cialdini, so we met, I have a very similar story to Patrick. We met about 20 years ago. You came to Connecticut and did a workshop for us and a keynote speaker for us. And it was a big defining moment in my marketing career. So I really had to have that opportunity to thank you for that, because these principles have served me very well in my career, and joining this institute was really a no-brainer for me. We also have something else in common. I think I learned that you're a Packer fan.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who bought those shares based on the scarcity principle they put on me. Not only did I have one of them, my kids have them and my wife has them too, and they're not even Packer fans. So that principle of unity is so powerful. And just one other thing I wanted to share. So I have a good friend of mine whose son was struggling finding a job. And I met with him yesterday. He had an interview yesterday, and I gave him your tip on interviewing and the question to ask. And I have to tell you, he called me after and said, I can't believe this. They hired me on the spot.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that and thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you back then, and I'm so proud to be part of this institute.
Does everybody know what that tip is? Has everybody learned it? It's essentially, instead of asking at the outset of an interview, so what can I do to, what would you like me to tell you about myself? I'm happy to tell you anything you want. That's what we are typically told. We all say, but I have a question for you first, if you don't mind. Why did you invite me here? What was it about my resume that made me an attractive candidate? And you find them then in a public way supporting your candidacy by describing your strengths and how good the fit is to their organization. And by the end of the interview, they have sold themselves to you. You don't have to do it. And I have this colleague who said he's gotten 3 better jobs in a row from just using that one question at the outset. It produces a commitment and consistency pressure now, because they have gone on record as supporting your fit with this opportunity. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing this. Rob Greenlee, I see you're next in the queue. Welcome.
Thank you, boss. Thank you for this opportunity. Dr. Cialdini, what can you suggest for those of us who want to foster democracy and fair and free elections in the US, especially as we interact with fellow citizens who don't believe the 2020 elections were real and want to restrict votings for others? And I guess I'll say in advance, if you are already working on that, thank you in advance for doing that. But any advice you have for those of us who want to see democracy opening in that way going forward?
So I don't want to get political about this, but I do think that there are a couple of things that the research has shown really work when you're trying to deal with someone whose position is different from your own. How do you move that person? And it has to do with the rule of reciprocity. You ask them and you listen to what their reasons are, and you honestly express an interest in what they are saying, right? And then it's their turn to listen to you. They don't block you off anymore. You're not the enemy. You're someone who is honestly trying to be informed about both sides. And now it's their turn. And it's the only way you get through that block wall that they put up there, is that you show your willingness, and then they say, okay, well, what's your side? And you can get your message in now, right? You can get it in. And if your message is the better one, I think you win. The other is something that is very, I'm not sure why it isn't more recognized in the academic science of persuasion. It's something called the convert communicator, where you can present, usually this is in various ads of one sort or another, but you can tell the stories of people who used to believe what they believed and have now changed their mind. It's very difficult to dismiss somebody who is like you. It's much easier to dismiss somebody who is not like you, who's a rival, who's an opponent. But if you've got somebody who is of you and now says, I happen to have changed my mind based on this, and that, now you get significant attitude change from the concept of the convert communicator. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Wow, very
Thank you.
powerful. Thanks for sharing. Great question, Rob. So I see John Michael. Welcome.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. Hello from France. Hello, Dr. Cialdini. I hope it's not too hot in Mesa in Arizona. Well, I did send an email, and because I'm online, I'm going to answer that question, and Bas is in copy. But in Module 4, you were talking about the golden rule and the golden rule of reciprocity, where you state, give unto others as you would have them give to you. But I've been working for 16 years with BNI and Ivan Meissner, the founder, and many other leaders and all that. And I came to the conclusion that for me, golden rule is the most egocentrical rule. It all concerns me. I'm going to give to others the way I want to be, me treated. And Dr. Tony Alessandra argues that the golden rule is not always the best way to approach people. Rather, he proposed a platinum rule, who says, don't do unto others as they'd like done unto them. And we've been using in BNI this to build a relationship with referral partners, undertaking their behavioral style. So if I'm a high D and I behave under the golden rule with a high S or C, I'm not sure the relationship is going to be very good. It might become conflictual. So do you think we could apply the platinum rule of reciprocity that could be give unto others as they would like to be given?
Yes, I love that idea. And in fact, one of the amplifiers of the reciprocity principle is that what you give is tailored or customized or personalized to the needs, to the challenges, to the circumstances that person is in. If you, that strikes me as the heart of the idea that, look, you give them what they need, what they most want at that moment, or value.
Okay.
That, and I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
I can give you an example. I have a friend who is located in Poland, and she's she puts together events, conferences and conventions and so on. Well, she had a particular client who was a slow pay.
Okay.
Right? Didn't pay for 6 months very often. And all of her friends said the same thing. This guy just doesn't pay. And she asked me, what could I do to help? I said, well, what do you know about the guy? She said, I don't. He lives in a different city than I do. All I know is that he's a patron of the arts. He loves the arts. And I said, okay, well, when you send your next invoice, before you do, go to one of the museums or galleries in your town and get one of those postcards that shows an example of one of the exhibits there and give it to him. Put it in with the, and she said, she called me, she said, that's amazing. We've reduced the time from 6 months to 3 months. And I said, well, what else do you know about this guy? She said, well, it turns out I've since found out he loves abstract art.
Yeah.
So go to now get a postcard of abstract. She called me, she said, you won't believe this. We now get our payment immediately because we've given him what he likes. We personalize this. And she said, my friends are all asking me, how did you do this? Because he's still paying us 6 months. And she said, I'm not telling them. But I'm telling you.
That's a brilliant story.
Fantastic.
Personalize, customize.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you, Doctor. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think, Sean Michael, I will reply to your email, but I think indeed we are all on the same page here. So thanks for bringing this to awareness. Then we could say Martin John.
Good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to say what a tremendous opportunity it is, not just this session, but to be part of the Institute. I'm absolutely delighted that I've come across this. But I've got potentially a polemical question for you. So I read the other day, it might have been a post on LinkedIn, that compliance is not the same as agreement. And the suggestion was that compliance is not sustainable in a business context. So I just like to understand, what do you think? What do you think about that statement, Dr. Cialdini, and how you would counter it?
No, I agree that compliance is about can be about power. If I'm your boss, I can get you to comply just because of the hierarchical authority I have and the ability to punish or reward you. But to get agreement, to get to persuade, to convince people in your direction, that produces a change inside that will ramify into the future. So I agree completely. And I think that's another reason why it's important that we embed anything we do in an ethical context so that no one feels that they've been pushed or coerced or pressed into a choice that they won't choose to make again when the circumstances are changed. But if they've made that choice because we've informed them into assent, right? Now that's going to be something that stays with them for the longer term.
Superb, thank you.
Good question, yeah.
Thank you, Martin John. Thank you for the great answer, Dr. Cialdini. Armando, sorry. Lovely to see you here.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Cialdini. Congratulations on the success of this wonderful program. We all love it. What tips do you have on following up with a prospect or a customer? I love the idea of sharing exclusive information and new information first, but any other tips for the follow-up? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the follow-up is to ask honestly, what have been the strengths and what could we do better? In other words, a co-creation process. For the last 2 decades, I think the co-creation process is the single most effective, most important new marketing approach that I have experienced, where we bring people who are in our client base into a sense of unity with us by making them partners in the evaluation and the formation of new or improved products and services, with that idea that that we want you to be informants for us in this process and partners with us in this process. The research shows that not only do you get stronger affinity, stronger positive reaction to your brand, you get greater loyalty into the future. So I think that would be something I would try to build in a regular way to existing customers or clients. Yeah.
Thanks for this answer. Manu, thanks for the question. Then I move to Fernando. We have 5 minutes left. I promise. If you can't ask your question in this session, I have an option how you can answer, how you get your question answered in the next. Fernando, you're mute.
Yep. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll try to be quick. Dr. Cialdini, I'm in the marketing business, so most of the time I have to try to convince people that have a problem, but they understand they have a problem, but they have not taken any action to solve it. That I have to convince them that certain product or service is the solution to their problem. Mm-hmm. So from the ethical point of view, how far, and I'm not talking about lying, but how far do you think marketers or salesmen should go when you know the other part has a serious problem that could be easily solved, his life would be much better, but that person simply is not taking action?
Yeah, and I think in this case, you have to recognize that you're perhaps not the best communicator in this case, but someone who you have had a business relationship with and who is similar to this individual, right? You could give the story of that person or ask for a testimonial from that individual, right, who had that problem. So, for example, just making sure that when you describe the successes of others, that you customize, you segment those others to be similar. If you were in financial services, for example, and you know that you want to send somebody in a particular direction with their interests, their financial interests, and you can tell them, you're in a family or a family business. Let me tell you what our family business clients have found to be most successful. Or you're in you have a startup. Let me tell you what our individuals who were startups have done that made this. So if you make it more about them and not so much the broader sense of individuals, but those who are comparable to them, I think that breaks through that willingness not to hear you. Because the more you can personalize it, the more people begin paying attention and focusing on your message. So again, making it as comparable as possible.
Thank you very much.
We have to have respect for Dr. Cialdini's time. Tyler, I give you an option. You want to ask next session or now? We have 2 minutes left.
Okay, 2 minutes. All right. Thank you, boss. Okay, Dr. Cialdini, how are you doing? Yes, hi. Okay, so this is Tyler from Singapore. And Dr. Cialdini, if you've ever find yourself visiting Singapore for, who knows, a short visit or vacation, I'll be more than happy to play host to you. Yes.
Thank you, because I've always wanted to visit, but haven't. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're always welcome to, yes. So, Dr. Cialdini, I guess, I have a question because you see, first of all, your work has really helped humankind tremendously. And, back in the 80s, you actually coined 6 persuasion concepts or principles and eventually brought in principle number 7, principle of unity, which for that, all of us appliers and also implementers of persuasion are grateful for that. So for that, I guess my question is a little bit like a what's next type of a question, which is that over the years, I know maybe in recent years, the past 3 to 5 years, like for you, have you actually what are some concepts or certain research or studies or experiments, like new ones you came across that in a way astounds you or amaze you, so much so that you might even consider it as, as a basis for the next persuasion principle number 8, right? So are there certain research of such that really makes your eyes light up? Yeah.
I haven't come across one of those, but I'll tell you what I have decided. What we have in terms of what I've talked about it, the influence book is about what you put into your message. What do you put into the communication that you send? I wrote another book called Persuasion, which is what do you say before you send your message to put people in a state of mind that is receptive to your message before they encounter it. All right, so we've got persuasion, we've got persuasion. There's one thing that I think I need to write the next book about. Persuasion. What do you do after you've made the sale that solidifies the loyalty and durability of that change, right? So I think that's what's left, to really look at that arena that we haven't systematically explored in either of those two books. Yeah, I think that's what I would do next.
Wow, that's a very interesting area to explore. Tyler, thanks for the question. I wrote down the names of Michelle Caprio, Christian Youngren, and Mark. Please send your question to support at Cialdini. Then I make sure we will handle your questions first in the next session with Dr. Cialdini.
Yeah.
Dr. Cialdini, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of everybody here to sharing your wisdom and making time for all of us here. Thanks a lot. It was an honor to listen to you, to all of you. I think this was great, valuable information, great questions. Thanks for joining this session, and I'm looking forward to see you all very, very soon. Thank you. Enjoy your day, evening, or afternoon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.